Welcome back to Pork Chops, Rice, and Peaches. I'm Richard.
Noah.
And I have the sweatshirt that Noah says I have no idea what it means.
Yes.
Right. But I'm continuing to expand my One Piece collection so that there's always something new on camera. Or hopefully I'm not repeating myself too much.
All right.
So, the episode you've all been waiting for, or not, I don't know, Olive Garden. The first time I have hit a section of One Piece where I hated it.
Yeah.
And I don't know
Apparently.
what it is. Well, so I read this on the plane to Germany on July 1st.
Mm-hmm.
And on the plane, as 8 hours, captive audience, I was enjoying myself flipping through this. Every time I have reapproached this section of One Piece since then, I have hated it.
Yeah.
It's a slog. There's
It is a bit of a...
a few things that I appreciate,
Uh-huh.
but I don't even know what I'm supposed to say about this.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I really don't. I mean, part of me just wants to go on a rolling rant about it. The other part of me wants to say, okay, what is there of redeeming quality in this? So there's a few things. And I don't want to say, hi, welcome to the episode, go. But hi, welcome to the episode, go.
I also have a hard time with Little Garden.
Okay.
So the first time I watched it and read it, I thoroughly enjoyed it. And like you, every subsequent reread or rewatch, it has been hard to get through.
Yes, it has.
I Little Garden, I don't know what it is about Little Garden that is so hard to reread, but I mean, I can theorize a couple things. It's sandwiched in between two very hype arcs and doesn't quite deliver as much in the moment. A lot of the stuff that it builds is going to take a while to be redeemed. And the final climax of the whole Little Garden story is just a little... It's nothing we haven't seen before, nothing that hasn't been
so I didn't
done
want
better.
I didn't want to insult Oda or the fan base by saying this is nothing but filler, but is it kind of filler?
It definitely feels. It probably I don't blame you for thinking it feels like filler. It does have some important setup and some
moments. So now I need to wait for the payoff.
Yes.
All right. So I might have to revisit this episode and apologize.
Maybe. We'll see. The giants are important, and their home that they mention, which is Elbaf,
Yes.
is also very important.
Okay.
But that's kind of all of
That's all you can say.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, we get...
They're not important in the moment when you're reading Little Garden. They're important later on. So it was important that they were established.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, that's actually good to know. I mean,
Yeah.
if everybody noticed a sense of relief washing over me about 60 seconds ago, it's because I have just been looking at this. I've kind of been feeling guilty, to be totally honest with you, because I've been avoiding this episode for quite a while.
Uh-huh.
And I didn't even realize how much time had passed since we covered One Piece.
Yeah.
Until this past week when I went, oh my goodness, it's been a while. So there's some fun things about it. They arrive on the island and you have an island of dinosaurs because, of course, it's Oda.
Yeah.
And there seems to be absolutely no limits to his imagination.
No.
Of course there's dinosaurs. And if there's dinosaurs, then Luffy's reaction is to scream, adventure!
Yep.
And the surprise that comes with that, because... So there's this thing, and I'll give you the pictures later if you want to splash them up there. Luffy goes from childlike innocence and pure joy and fun to buff, ripped, angry, and ready to write. And you see both in this arc, this mini arc. And I think the things that I appreciate the most are his hands. I don't know if you've paid attention to the hand art.
Where it's more cartoonish when he's more carefree, but when he's serious, it's like a well-drawn fist.
It's like a man's hand.
Yeah.
It's like his hands transform from a 10-year-old boy
I know what
to
you're-
a
yeah, I know
30-year-old
what you're
angry
talking
man, right?
about,
And
yeah.
you just see him. And so What kind of caught my attention on this is that Vivi, says, "Oh, I want to go with." Like that kind of caught me by surprise.
Okay.
But you get this. There's just this hodgepodge of oddball reactions, right?
Yeah.
And this idea that the entire crew gets separated.
Yeah.
Because they are not strong individually. They're not as strong individually as they are as a team working together, right?
Yeah.
And so this episode, I didn't even realize, this episode breaks them apart right away.
Yeah.
It just sends them scattered into different directions. Zoro and Sanji start a hunting competition because, of course, when you're on an island of dinosaurs, that's what you want to do. You want to go off by yourself and go on a hunting competition. Who can kill the most tonnage of meats? Not, the biggest animal or anything, right? Nami and Usopp want to hide on the boat. Karoo has an absolute freak out. We don't know why. Just does.
Mm-hmm.
And in Luffy's childlike excitement, he jumps on the neck of a brontosaurus. I don't know if it's a brontosaurus or not. It looks like one, and he goes for a ride, right? So this is like, okay, here we go. This is an adventure that just starts.
Yep.
Meanwhile, and I'm just going to go on a little side note here, the chapter cover art is a pubescent Colby sword fighting with Helmeppo, where you get this view of, okay, wait a minute, Colby's growing up. He is physically filling out. He is becoming a man.
Yes.
I'm wondering how they're going to handle this in the live action.
Mm-hmm.
But that's another conversation for another time.
Drastic physical changes are a lot harder to pull off in live action without having the actor go through an immense workout.
Or changing actors.
Yeah, or changing
actors. And
we'll see how that goes.
All right. Zoro meets a Triceratops. And of course, now, if I meet a Triceratops, and first thing I'm going to ask is it edible? Because that is right. Sanji gets approached by a T-Rex. That's pretty much the last time we see Sanji for quite a long time.
Yeah, quite a while.
Right, to figure out what's going on with him. Froggy shows up, the giant, at the merry-go, gets bitten on the butt by a dino, lops its head off with one swing of his axe. That establishes power.
Yes,
that's
yes,
right.
It does. Yes,
and
it
declares
does.
that he is the mightiest warrior on Elbaf.
Yep.
Okay. Luffy gets swallowed by the Brontosaurus.
Yep.
Right? The only carnivorous Brontosaurus I've ever seen. Anyways, he gets saved by Dory the giant, who declares himself the mightiest warrior on Elbaf, who slices off the creature's head with one swing of his sword.
Yep.
And then Luffy drops out of the dino's neck and hits him which is actually kind of funny. Right? Because he comes out upside down.
Yes.
Right? As he's falling.
I love that panel too, actually.
Okay.
Of Dory. I'm checking your notes to make sure that I have it right. Telling them apart is like, come on, man. The perspective, the scale, the immediate sense of scale you get from that, is awesome. And I love it. And you know what's something that's great about that is that it actually has been consistent. When Oda draws other giants, Luffy is consistently scaled to that giant.
Cool.
So there's
continuity.
It's awesome. It's very good continuity. At least from what I've seen.
Froggy Shortbeard.
Yes.
Dory Longbeard. Got it. I think my notes are correct. So, of course, does obviously from the beginning when you get there, it sets up the question: will there be a battle between the two giants? And obviously the answer is yes, because what's one piece if it isn't fighting?
Yeah. You just summed up a lot of it.
So
it's the genre.
Yeah, it really is. And then so it's kind of interesting because you get part of the crew with one giant, part of the crew with the other giant, and these giants are amazingly hospitable people.
Yes,
for these warrior creatures, they're really like, come on, enjoy some brontosaurus meat with me. Come on, eat some, whatever it is he killed.
Yeah.
And so Usopp and Nami, they're unnerved by the pile of human bones, and we establish humans don't last a year on the island.
Yeah.
Right. It takes a year for the log pose to reset on the island, and that most people just don't make it. So it's not that the giants have killed all these humans. It's just that sometimes they get eaten. But then we find out Dory and Bragi have had a spat. They lived in a village with a code. When there's a dispute, neither side will yield. They have a fight, and the god of Elbaf decides the matter. The god protects the one who is right. Apparently they were both right, because, man, they've been fighting for 100 years or better, and neither one of them can... Well, you know, they claim that they can't remember what the origin of the fight was, but one of the two of them says, oh, it's Dory. He started some trouble with Bragi. That's exactly how he describes it.
Yes.
Right? And now they've been fighting for 100 years. And now they're just fighting for honor.
Yeah.
Now, okay, so now we have a code here being established, fighting for honor.
Mm-hmm.
And in the one character that attracts the most is Usopp.
Yes.
Probably the character with the least amount of honor of everybody.
Yes.
Because he really does, you know, but he sees them and he says, this is my goal, to be a brave warrior of the sea.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And so he sees this and he's inspired by it. Now, when Nami encourages Usopp to return to the boat with her, and he says, wait a minute, I don't want to go back through the jungle with the dinosaurs again. She says, what about being a warrior? And he says, oh, I was just thinking out loud.
Oh, yeah, there's some gold in
Oh,
this.
yeah, there is. I mean, that was just absolutely fantastic, because being motivated and changing his character are two entirely different things.
Yes.
At this point in the story.
Yes.
Right, okay. Because I know a tiny bit of what takes place in the future. In the meantime, we change scenes. We meet Mr. 3, the agent of Baroque Works, and his sidekick, Ms. Golden Week.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Besides their menacing talk about killing agents, following orders, protecting secret identities, he states, and I found this interesting, the superior criminal's greatest weapon is his brain. That was a nice statement. All right.
Yep.
Coming from a very arrogant individual.
Yes.
Super overconfident. And
Very.
so, you know, this begs the question, will this play out? How good is he really? All right. Dory belches and collapses. We have explosive ale. Usually the explosions from ale don't come out here, but I won't go into that. We have Mr. 3. You're welcome. Mr. 3 builds himself a house of wax. Now, this is where you start to get a hint. I don't remember if we've seen him before this. I don't think so.
Mr. 3.
Yeah, the wax guy.
We only see him at when he's like sipping on the tea,
Right.
and doing that.
Right.
That's the first time you see him.
So-
because it starts in silhouette.
Yes.
Oda loves to play with silhouettes. He loves to introduce villains through silhouettes, or he
Okay.
loves to introduce characters through silhouettes. He did the same thing with Bragi. At the end of one chapter, Bragi's a silhouette in the forest. You just see eyes.
Right.
And then the next chapter, you see the full thing.
Yes.
And he's a little goofier once you see him, because he's got this big, massive grin on
Right,
his face.
right.
And it's like, okay,
Yes.
he's not coming across aggressively. Oda likes to use silhouettes to hide intentions with the character for a little bit.
He's also very good at the cliffhanger. He's also
Mhm.
very good at the end of the chapter leaving people hanging.
Yeah.
Waiting for the next thing. So that's good.
Yeah.
All right. We find out Mr. 5 and Miss Valentine, who we thought were dead, are alive. They come back to help.
Yep.
All right. We learn that there's $100 million God. I am never going to replace dollar with berry on the first try ever. All right. And then we find out that there's 100 million berry bounty on each giant's head. This is a 100-year-old bounty, but still valid.
Yep.
All right. Mr. 3 puts the bomb, and we find out he put the bomb in the ale to kill the giant, collect the bounty, get promoted in Baroque Works. And we realize that while Dory and Bragi are all about honor, Mr. 3 completely lacks honor.
Yeah.
All right, so we have we have a true black and white villain here. Okay, all right. And it's when the Straw Hats get separated that they start meeting these, what do you call them? Body double versions of themselves with no eyes?
Yeah.
Right, as if the pod people from Invasion of the Body Snatchers have showed up on Little Garden to take people over. All right. And Luffy gets trapped under a giant skeleton. I don't I don't know how that happened.
Yeah, I think the giant put it on him.
Did the giant put him on him?
Because I think it was Dory. Luffy's like, you can't go fight because you're injured. It's not fair.
Right.
You know, it's not honorable.
Right.
And the giant's like, I still have to because that's the agreement.
Right.
So he puts Luffy under there so he can't interfere.
Right.
If I'm remembering correctly, that's why.
Yeah,
That's what happened.
That sounds about right, but honestly, I kept looking and I kept missing it. And it's just like, I have you to explain these things to me.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Dory and Bragi meet. They fight again with Mr. 3 interfering. Now we see how evil and manipulative he truly is.
Underhanded tactics and all that.
The whole bit. Bragi wins and is promptly trapped in Mr. 3's wax. So now we have this giant who is trapped with, like, what does he have, one arm free or something? I mean, he's pretty much down.
Pretty much just like
Right.
speared
Right.
through all his limbs.
Vivi and Usopp square off against Mr. 5 and Mrs. Valentine. Vivi pulls out her magic nipples again. I don't know. Whenever you see her going like this with the nipple rings, I
think it's just the weird spinning blade thing.
but she pulls them out
yes,
like that, you know, and it's got the little curly cues on it. I don't know what it's, you know, it's like anime meets Cirillas. It's like I don't know how to take this. You know? Usopp takes out his slingshot. They both lose. All right.
Yeah.
So here's the interesting thing about this arc. I mean, everybody is losing as we go. 5 and Valentine have beaten Karoo, Vivi, and Usopp.
Yes.
All right. We've got Luffy trapped under a skeleton. I don't remember how does Usopp get buried in the ground? It's like someone he's like buried to the shoulders.
I don't remember.
Yeah, I don't remember either.
I don't remember off the top of my head.
And then magically, Zoro is captured off screen. I mean, I think this might be the most disappointing part of this.
I think it was the same
arc.
thing as that he saw one of the body doubles.
Is that what it is? So suddenly he's in the wax leg lock.
Yeah.
Right? And he's trapped and he can't do anything. Because
if Zoro had been at 100% awareness, this would have been a 30-second ordeal.
Well, it'd have been a different ordeal because in chapter 119 we meet him, dragging a triceratops. Through. Yeah. And then in 121 he's in wax leg locks. It's mighty convenient.
Yeah.
That might be the only disappointing aspect of this. Right?
Yeah.
Truly. Okay. And so Nami, Vivi, and Zoro get put in the Candelabra Waxworks giant cake thingy.
Yep.
I mean, this just took me back to an episode of Adam West's Batman.
Yeah.
Where on Tuesday night they're trapped in a giant cake. Tune in on Thursday, same bad time, same bad channel. Will they get out of this trap? I mean, that's exactly what this was.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And they're slowly being covered in misty wax until they're frozen.
Yeah.
Suffocated. I couldn't decide whether or not to be annoyed that Zoro just stood there and made jokes.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like I couldn't decide if he had like the ultimate confidence that either he would get out or that Luffy would save him.
Mm-hmm.
Or if he knew he was beaten and he just didn't care and he was going to make comments, but it wasn't the attitude of someone who is trying to stay alive at all costs to fulfill a promise to a dead friend that he would become the greatest swordsman in the world.
Yeah.
So there was this whole, what's going on here thing.
Okay.
Your take?
He kind of just sums it up himself. The whole joke about, why are you holding that pose? Why are you doing that? Well, because if I'm going to die, I might as well look cool. I think he was just like, well, either we're going to get out of this or we're going to not. He kind of, except he and Luffy very much kind of have that ability to just like, well, if it happens, it happens. You know,
This is true. They do have
At
that.
least
Yes.
I went out pursuing my dream. But fun fact, Zoro did eventually get that pose in statue form because in Oda's hometown, I believe it is,
Yeah.
it was wrecked by a tsunami in Japan a few years ago, and he donated a lot of money to the town.
Okay.
And in recognition of that, they put up statues of all the straw hats around town, and this one's Zoro's.
Oh, that is so
Same
cool.
pose.
Yeah, okay. All right.
See, sword up, same pose.
Okay. So your brother wants
fun fact.
to take me on a tour of Japan. He loved Japan so much. He said, "Dad, I want to show you Japan. I want to take you back." Now I know what we have to do.
Oh yeah.
We've got to go. I've got to get my picture taken with every one of those statues.
Oh yeah.
That's my goal.
Oh
All
yeah.
right.
That's a goal of many
All right.
people.
Okay, I have a new bucket list entry.
Mhm.
All right. Cool. Yeah, we're gonna do that. What'd you go to Japan for? Take pictures with Oda statues.
Yeah. But yeah, all bronze statues. Anyway,
All right, that sounds good.
that's pretty much how I view. Anytime Luffy or Zoro or Sanji get to one of those points where they're just kind of like, well, if I die, I die.
Yep.
It's like it feels like they just have that natural acceptance of, you know what? If I die here, at least I died pursuing what I wanted to, and that's
Right.
still a life worth living.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, it also tunes in. It also aligns with Luffy's thing with Oda explaining why Luffy doesn't just straight up kill his villains. Is that Luffy believes that if he destroys their dream, it's a fate worse than death because he's taking away their meaning, their purpose for living.
Okay.
So they don't even get the release of it's over. They now have to live in their failure and their inability to pursue their dream. So that's kind of it.
Certain level of cruelty to that.
Yeah, a certain level of cruelty to that.
Yeah.
And but it lines up. It's kind of tonally consistent.
Okay.
If death is preferable to not being able to accomplish your dream, you know,
Right.
death is preferable to not being able to accomplish it. Essentially. So I think they all kind of have that alignment. They're all aligned on that.
Better to be dead than to live in failure.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
I got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So.
All right. You know, there's a whole different aspect to fighting. I mean, you can destroy your opponent, or you can defeat your opponent and help them up because you have a potential of making them a friend. Now, that's IRL. That's not necessarily.
Well, and in anime and
IOP.
shonen, and in shonen specifically, there is a trope of villains turning around and becoming best friends with the hero or good guys later on.
Oh, okay.
It's very much a trope in the shonen jump genre of
Okay.
manga and anime, which One Piece doesn't really do a lot of.
Just okay. Eschews the trope. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Sounds good.
Most of the villains stay villains, pretty much.
Well, it's handy because
Mm-hmm.
then you don't have to keep reinventing villains.
Yeah.
You just have to give them level up powers and a bigger challenge.
Yeah. Or find a new use for them later in the story.
Oh, there you go.
You know.
That'll work.
Anyway, where were we?
So, how did Luffy, Usopp, and Karoo get out of their individual things and then they come crashing in the scene? Because it's like, oh, I'm tired of laying around here under the skeleton. I'm going to let myself out. I did. Little side note. Really enjoyed. Before Luffy defeated Dory in the fight, he got flattened into the ground in one of those cartoon holes, reminiscent of Bugs Bunny or Wile E. Coyote. That was really a nice...
It's fun.
A fight ensued. I'm shocked. This never happens in One Piece.
Right?
A fight. They start
fight
fighting.
happened
Right?
between the good guys and the bad guys.
Luffy adapts to every one of Mr. Three's wax traps.
Mhm.
Like, every one. He's like, figures out a way of taking the trap and using it against,
Yes.
right? Which is consistent with his ongoing, I don't have a plan for winning, but I'm
Yeah.
going to figure it out as I go. And he does. On the fly, for being as much of an idiot when he's relaxed.
Oh, yeah.
In the heat of the moment,
Yeah.
he's really sharp. He figures all this stuff out, okay? He defeats Mr. 3, and then we get the quiet little patient Miss Golden Week who uses her art traps to trap him into not doing what he wants to do, which is rescue his friends.
Yeah.
All right. So we get a return to Mr. Five, his exploding boogers.
Yeah.
Fights against Karoo and Usopp. Usopp accidentally hits Luffy with a fire star. I enjoyed that, blowing him out of the art trap. That was convenient. All right. And then this is where Luffy emerges from this explosion and says, "No, I'm really angry."
Yeah.
You know, at who? At his friend?
At his friend who helped him,
Right.
yeah? Or
But this is where he comes back, and this is where he comes back in the big, I mean, he comes back with his shirt blown off, man hands, and an 8-pack,
Yes.
right? As opposed to the, I want to go on an adventure guy from
it's one
the
of those
beginning.
when Luffy gets serious. It's
Yeah.
the whole, you know, if you see Luffy not smiling, you're in trouble, especially at this stage in One Piece. It's like the running joke with Spider-Man comics is that if Spider-Man is joking around while fighting you, you're fine. But if Spider-Man is dead silent while fighting you, you need to run for your life or surrender, because an angry Spider-Man is a Spider-Man who's willing to break you.
Gotcha.
So there's actually a running joke in Spider-Man comics. There was an issue where he goes to stop some criminals and he's just clung to the wall.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's his standard rogues gallery who are like, "Hey, Spider-Man, I guess you're here to stop us." You know, they start talking, and he's not saying anything. He's not responding to anything. And they're like trying to feed him material to quip off of.
Right.
And he's not saying anything. And they're like, "Oh no. Oh no." And then the next panel is them arrested because they've just given up.
Right.
And the police officer's like, "Thanks, Spider-Man." And then the little tiny print in the big white text bubble is, "You're welcome." And then he's like, "Sorry, I didn't hear that." And he's like, "Sorry, bronchitis." Right? Side tangent, but that's
funny.
If Luffy, especially at this point, is no longer being his goofy self,
right,
you're in trouble.
Okay.
That's kind of how that's kind of how you establish when Luffy is like in serious mode.
I'll keep that in mind.
Yeah.
That's kind of amusing. So we get this point, and then suddenly Sanji reappears. Now, I truly laughed at this because where does Sanji reappear? Sanji reappears in the jungle. What is he doing? Sanji has just met a saber-toothed tiger. Next panel, Sanji is riding the tiger,
the beaten
and the
up
tiger has a black eye. Just like, this is just funny. All right, this goes to how powerful he is and how confident he is, and it's just absolutely hysterical. And of course, this sets him up to find the wax house and to go inside.
Yep,
right.
I'm gonna call time. Tag back. So, wax house.
There's a whole running storyline here.
And they all converged at the wax house.
And they all converged at the wax house.
With Sanji.
Mr. 3 returned with his Hulkbuster Iron Man suit.
Yes, he did. Yes, he
comes
did.
back. Solid wax. They have this battle. Luffy uses Mr. 3's fire against him to melt everything.
Yes.
Frees everybody, defeats all the bad guys. You get the whole thing. You know, it's that figure it out as we go thing. I think the coolest part of this episode, really, and the coolest part of the battle, that is a Spider-Man who borrowed Ant-Man's suit and got really big compared to the rest of them. It's in the backstory. I established. They know what I'm talking about.
Okay.
All right, Luffy catches Mr. 3 alone. And this is the Wax Wax Mansion scene where all the doubles are out there. And Mr. 3 says, which one of us is the real one?
Mm-hmm.
I've got this dagger, and if you turn your back, you know, you're gonna get stabbed in the back. He says, you'll never take all of us. When you turn your back on me, you'll get a dagger through the heart. We're the best brains of Baroque works, and you're just a powerful oaf who acts only on instinct.
Mhm.
Now, the coolest part of this entire arc, and maybe for me the only redeeming part of this entire arc, is that Luffy delivers one side thrust kick somewhere, hits the real Mr. 3 right in the face, leaves the sandal print right on his face, knocks him out in one try. And as Mr. 3 is going down, he asks the question, how? And Luffy replies with one word, instinct. Right? That was the coolest part of the whole.
It's a really cool.
Yeah, it's the coolest part of the whole thing. You know, and then you get the Unluckies coming. They get the eternal log pose. Sanji takes out the Unluckies. Continuing he's got all of this power. He's not even fazed by these people.
Yeah,
I find it interesting that for all the threat that Baroque works seems to be bringing to the table, so far almost matter-of-factly, nonchalantly, the Straw Hat Pirates are defeating all the way up to number 3. They've got number 2, number 1, Mr. Zero.
Yeah.
Right. And I think number 2 we met. She's the chick who showed up on the boat at the end of
that is so for every level there is 2 people.
Okay.
So there's a Mr. number and then a holiday or a day of the week. That's the equivalent of that. So they're a team. They're equal level. So
that was Miss Sunday.
Yes.
And she's the equal of Mr. Zero?
Yes.
Gotcha. Okay.
Well, she's positioned at the same level.
At the same level.
Mr. Zero, yes.
So they have a few more people to go through, but they're what I find interesting is the idea of if they're moving through Baroque works as easily as they are. And is Mr. Crocodile, Mr. Zero, is he one of the 7 warlords? He is, isn't he? They mentioned that. They mentioned that in what I've read so far. He's one of the 7 warlords. It's like, how strong are the Straw Hat Pirates? I mean, for such a ridiculous crew that's not even completed yet.
Yeah.
How strong are they if they're moving this easily through Baroque works? I think that might be, as I'm sitting here thinking about it now, probably the most intriguing question that comes out of this thing.
Okay.
Now, blessedly, and we'll be filming this next week, which means we're probably doing 2 One Piece in November. We move on to Drum Island.
Yes.
And while I struggled a little bit with the beginning of Drum Island, as I was reading this past week in Drum Island, I had that moment where I just went, okay, it's back. One Piece is back. One Piece, okay.
You got your
right?
super I really want to keep going.
Yeah, I want to keep going because we had its Nami moment, and that's the only way I can describe it.
You got to the Nami moment.
I got to what was for me the Nami moment.
Okay.
And I don't know if it's the same for you. We'll cover that when we got to
figure it out. Yeah,
but I'm really glad to be. I'm really glad to be through this section.
Yes.
I needed to regain the joy of reading One Piece, and I'll be totally honest with you, this just sucked it out of me.
Little Garden is a very tough reread, and even though I appreciate everything that it has established, because there is some good stuff it establishes. I don't know why it's a very tired reread.
I'm grateful to hear you say that, and I'm just wondering.
I don't know if other people feel the same way, but Little Garden has always been a tough reread for me.
Okay.
After really thoroughly enjoying it, I'm reading it, I know I should be enjoying this. I'll be honest. You know what my favorite part of this is Sanji in the wax hut on the phone.
Oh yeah, that's kind of
on the phone.
Yeah.
I thoroughly enjoyed that. So because it gives Sanji a moment of brains, because you get Luffy and Zoro, and they like to power their way through things, and Sanji obviously is also capable in his own right and super strong, but it gives these little moments of intelligence to characters, because they're trying to brute force their way through this whole wax situation, and Sanji's just here I don't know what this is, but all right. And then he just starts playing him.
Right.
He's like, oh,
Right.
yeah, that's me. Yeah. Oh, yeah, I completed the mission. Oh, wait, nope. Yeah, okay. I really like the whole moment. It's just fun. It shows that Sanji has more to his character than just I cook, I kick.
Right. Yeah,
You know?
yeah, that's good.
So Sanji can think through and react and take in information is the other thing. Is he's like, oh wait, this is Mr. Zero. Oh, this is good to know. I should probably like take this seriously for a second because I can gather some information. It's a very smart move on his part.
Yes, it is.
So
yes,
that is my favorite part of this. How far after did you read on this chapter? Well, you've read through Drum Island.
I've read through Drum Island.
Okay, yeah. so to wrap up this bit, the essentially Little Garden arc, the entirety of it ends with Nami falling sick, which leads into Drum Island.
Yes.
So did you pick up the thing with the fish? This is something that's I think is really funny. So
pick up the thing with the fish.
The fish, the Dorian Broggy, the big goldfish that they swipe through. Did you catch what they said about it?
I don't remember off the top of my head.
So they very specifically have a line, and this is a very.
It's the whole thing about going through it.
This is that scene, yes.
Right.
But before that, Broggy, I believe, is the one that says it's the island eater, but the thing that's most like notable about it isn't, its enormous appetite, it's the size of its crap, which are just as big as the islands it devours.
I did not catch that.
We laugh at.
I did not catch that.
But that's essentially what is said is its craps are as big as islands. Which, if you think about for a second, is one of the stories that Usopp told Kaya when she was sick, is that he met and fought a goldfish, a giant goldfish, whose poops were as big as islands.
I did not catch that at all.
So I'm pointing this out for a very specific reason.
Okay.
And that is because a lot of people, as you pay attention to Usopp's grandiose tales, just take note of them, because some of them come back later.
In standard writing, that almost suggests that what took place when he was telling those tales took place after the adventures. I mean, there's a whole timeline flip to that.
No, it's just what Usopp
You think
might
Usopp just is like hinting at what Oda's going to do?
Unintentionally, unknown to the character, but yes.
That's an interesting... Oh, God, that almost makes me want to go back and reread all of his BS and take notes on it. Because I'll never track all of that. I will never retain all of that.
No, yeah.
This is just too big.
But
all right,
that was a fun little fact I'll just throw at you.
Gotcha.
So
okay,
just another layer to... And I only bring that up because you enjoy Usopp's character so much.
I do enjoy Usopp's character.
So it adds more to Usopp's character. It's almost like he's prophetic in his lies.
Well, but Usopp's also he's smart in his own right. I mean, he's having this battle against Mr. Five, and Mr. Five can swallow his
gunpowder,
his stars, right? Yeah. Whatever he shoots,
his gunpowder,
and then he can spit it back out with greater force, and he lies because he's so proficient at it, and says, flaming star when he's really shooting hot pepper star, and it does it in,
Yep.
So Usopp's, it's interesting, his intelligence and his bravery comes out in the oddest moments.
Yep.
Sometimes I get the feeling like it almost comes out by accident as opposed to by choice, because he's not the most powerful. Anyway, I do note those things in his character.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'm really looking forward. I'm truly looking forward to covering Drum Island. We're going to do that in our next episode. We're going to film that in about a week.
One other thing is on the reread. One of the panels that I genuinely appreciate is this one right here. It's right after. I think it's closer to the beginning. Sanji's making drinks for everyone.
Oh yes,
and Nami tells Vivi, "Being on this ship sure makes you lose the will to even worry, doesn't it?" And it shows Nami's, we've had a long time since Nami's big moment, but it really shows how comfortable Nami has gotten.
Yes, you are right.
And it's important because it's Nami, the one who was the least comfortable on the ship initially.
That's an excellent point. No, that is an excellent point.
Letting the person who is, desperate and uncomfortable, Vivi, who really wants to get home and really wants to take care of the situation at home, Nami's the one who's able to say, "Hey,
relax, this is going to happen.
This is going to happen, and being on this ship will help ease your stress." And it's big coming from Nami.
It is, and
the person who's always trying to forward think and forward plan,
right?
To be able to say that to the most stressed character in the story at this point.
That's an excellent point.
Is a great little character moment that I love out of this. So there's good stuff in this whole section of story that I'm just like, but I think
I'll admit I kind of took that one for granted.
Yeah,
I did. I took it.
Well, rereading, I got it again.
Okay.
I was like, okay, yeah, that's a good little panel that I appreciate now more.
That was nice of them.
Especially after your whole analysis of Nami, I was in the mindset on this reread. Because every time I reread the sections, I'm rereading it with the context of everything that we have discussed. Like I haven't gone ahead and read ahead the forward stuff. I read them before we talk, so I'm reading them with the context.
Okay, gotcha.
Aside from the chapters weekly that release, I'm up to date.
So I'll be totally. So I'm really looking forward to and because
I love Drum Island. I'll be real.
You like Drum Island?
It's potentially my second favorite arc. Potentially, it's fighting for that second place spot.
We'll talk about this, obviously when we do it. But there's part of Drum Island that I found very, very confusing.
Yes,
and I'm hoping that you can clarify it for me, right? And there's parts of it that were just there's a. I'll save it for the video.
I'll save it for the video.
All right. I'll save it for the video. Now, I do want to make a request out here. One, thank you for your patience. I know it's a long time since we've gotten back to One Piece. I would love to hear what everybody else's thoughts are about the Little Garden arc.
Yes.
I really would. What am I missing? What did I not appreciate? What are we missing on the read through? Or do you have any other thoughts without major spoilers?
I honestly think a lot of Little Garden's significance comes with spoilers.
It comes with spoilers?
That's why I'm trying to be very careful about analyzing it.
I understand. But, I would love to hear what everybody else's thoughts are.
You dropped a line earlier that was from the thing that made me go, oh, crap.
What line was that?
I'm not telling you.
Oh, no, come on.
I'm not giving any
come on.
hints.
You're going to make me reread all this to try and figure it out on my own?
You have notes.
Oh, goodness. Great, you said that. Now I'm going to lose sleep over this. Mother puss buckets.
But what are your thoughts on Little Garden, please? Are we just out of touch? What did we miss in the initial read-through and reread-throughs? Do you have as hard a time rereading it on the back end as we do? Let us know all your thoughts, spoiler-free, or if you're going to drop spoilers, put that at the top so that Dad can avoid that.
Was it
in the comment section down below. It is not the instinct line. Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of Pork Chops, Rice, and Peaches. If you like what you see here, please consider hitting the subscribe button.
Wasn't the giant poop line.
No, I already made the significance of that known. Kill him.
Just gonna kill him.
We'll see you next time.